Our next speaker is Tanya Fitzgerald. Tanya is a people and wellbeing champion. She inspires small business owners to implement effective people and wellbeing practices so that they can increase productivity, performance, and profit. Today, Tanya is presenting on Mind Over Metrics, Mental Wellbeing for Business Success. Please join me in welcoming Tanya to the stage.
In the infamous words of Richard Branson, we must take care of people before taking care of business. Do your staff struggle to focus or concentrate or complete tasks efficiently? Are your staff getting sick more often, or are they taking more time off work? Are your staff showing signs of being impatient or irritable? Are they struggling to maintain good relationships with their colleagues or even the clients? Do you know how much this is impacting on your productivity, your performance, and your profit? Well, with over 25 years of experience as a HR professional and in my capacity as a people and wellbeing champion, I've taken my knowledge and skills, lived experience, to develop a comprehensive system that will support businesses to implement effective people and wellbeing practices so that they can increase productivity, performance, and profits. In the wake of the pandemic, more people are feeling burnt out. Burnt out people are 63% more likely to not show up for work and are more than twice as likely to be looking for work elsewhere. About 25 years ago, a colleague of mine were exposed to an incident at work. This incident was unexpected, it was out of our control, and we weren't prepared or trained to handle this kind of situation. I didn't realise until the police had turned up the extent of the situation I found myself in. A situation that posed a very serious risk to our lives. We could have been seriously injured or even died. Psychologists call this a traumatic event. Now, I believe this event and what played out in the days after enabled me to switch careers and move into HR as a profession. A show of hands, who's wondering what this event is that changed my career path all those years ago? Well, it was a customer who came into the workplace and they were wielding a weapon, threatening to kill my colleague if she didn't do what he wanted. I was actually at the back of the office at the time, but I heard all the commotion going on out front. And yes, just like in the movies, I walked all the way out the front straight to the noise. Now, let me explain. This was my job. Well, it had become my job just 5 weeks earlier when my supervisor went off on long-term sick leave. Now, I'm sure you figured out by now we couldn't accommodate the customer's requests. I have no idea whether I didn't have time to think or if I just didn't think. I walked straight over to the customer and I asked him if I could help him. While he was distracted by my question, I encouraged my colleague to go out the back of the office. I said, just go see Jack or Jill or walk up the hill. At this point, it didn't matter. I was just trying to get her out of harm's way. Show of hands, who's heard of the fight, flight, or freeze response? Well, let me tell you, she was completely frozen. It was like her feet were stuck to the ground. I had to urge her a second time by gently pulling on her arm and encouraging her to go out the back. I then turned back around to the customer to find myself looking straight at the weapon, which was being waved around in front of my face. The next 5, 10 minutes felt like an hour. And all I could do was try my best not to upset him. I don't even remember what I was saying or what I was doing, other than trying to coax him over to a counter. For some strange reason, I thought the counter could provide us or provide me with a level of safety. He wasn't budging. He continued to raise his voice and yell and scream at me. And all the while, waving the weapon around in front of my face. Now, eventually, security guards did come in and they wrestled him and the weapon to the ground. This was followed up by the police presence. However, I soon came to realise that the event wasn't over, with a police report being filed. My colleague went off on sick leave for about the next 2 weeks. I, however, being young and being one of my first careers, thought the best way to deal with it was to ignore what just happened and just get on with work. Not ideal and not something I recommend. My lived experience now shows that this is not the preferred way to deal with these types of situations. And when my colleague returned, she wasn't the same either. She was really struggling to focus. She couldn't concentrate. And she actually shook every time a customer walked in the door. She decided her only option was to put in a resignation. I felt totally awful that I couldn't help her. But I quickly found myself arguing with the office manager, fairly forcefully saying he couldn't accept her resignation. It was not right. She should be receiving workers' compensation and she's entitled to medical support. His response: I can't let her do that. That would reflect badly on me. My office stats are already suffering. And besides, I'm up for a promotion soon. He then looked me in the eye and said, and don't you think about putting a claim in either. Well, unfortunately, this was the first time I saw metrics and individual careers being put before people. Did he get that promotion? The workloads increased and more staff left. And eventually, 6 months later, the office was closed. This left the rest of us looking for work. However, I took this opportunity as my sliding doors moment. Over the past 25 years or so, I have been dedicated to building my knowledge, skills, and experience across the various functions of HR. I now have an in-depth knowledge of recruiting and selecting the right candidates, ensuring compliance with employment law and regulations, developing training and development programs to build people capability, and creating high-performing individuals and high-performing teams. However, I remain especially passionate about improving health and wellbeing at work. So I've decided it's time for me to pivot again. And now, using my 25 years of experience as a HR professional and in my capacity as a people and wellbeing champion, I've taken my knowledge, skills, and lived experience to develop a comprehensive system that will support businesses to implement effective people and wellbeing practices so that they can too increase productivity, performance, and profit. I believe to succeed, we should put mind over metrics. I believe it's about building mental wellbeing for business success. If this is resonating with you and you're ready to implement effective people and wellbeing practices so that you too can increase productivity, performance, and profit, please reach out. I know I can help.